Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
What have you really liked about Will and the things sort of you mentioned sort of him taking as one job, he's taking some steps and stuff.
Yeah.
What he had to play Saturday, we saw him run, we've seen some good throws. What just in general, what do you like about what he's done?
I think this preseason you've noticed a total command of the offense. He's put some work in, I think, this summer, not only on his body, and by the way, I think it was 2% body fat that he changed, and so that part was big, but also just understanding of the offense. He's worked on his throwing mechanics, but if you just said, give me the one thing that looks different this preseason, it's his command of the offense, the way that he's making decisions, and his movement.
I just slip in one more thing. You have a vote in the coaches poll this year. How did the Buckeyes do on your ballot? If you want to share.
Yeah, that's not public. I guess the last one is, so I'm just going to keep it that way and say keep myself from getting any more scrutiny than I need.
Third row right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
It looks like Jelani had a really good day today. It feels like Will and G are probably, firmly established there at the top of your tight end room. But what does Jelani have to do to get more playing time? Is he making that push? And I guess where does he still have to get better to get on the field?
Yeah, it's a great question. Jelani has the talent. You've heard me say this before, but he has the talent, and you can watch, a 5 to 10 play cut up and be very, very impressed. But he needs to be consistent. It's all the no talent issues with him. It's the focus. He made some plays, but then there were some plays that we got to make that weren't. And so I love the way he competes. I love his approach. I love his attitude. But in order to play tight end, you have to do a lot of job description. So you really got to be on it every play. And all it takes is one bad play, and that can ruin a whole drive at tight end. So we say that you have to run routes like a receiver. You have to block like an offensive lineman. You have to protect like a running back, and you have to know all of them. So after, I would say, the quarterback, the tight ends are probably asked to do the most things. So, we try to do the best we can and keep it simple, but the reality of it is they're asked to do a lot. So he needs to continue to work in the meeting rooms to make sure that when he gets on that field, he knows exactly what he's doing. Because, we see a huge ceiling in him. He's made strides. He's had a good first couple weeks at camp. But we need him to come on in that area and just show more consistency. If he can, he'll play for us this season.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
We're seeing a lot more pads on the helmets this year compared to last year. How did that come to be this camp?
Yep. So we had a meeting here with Dr. Lonzer, who's a neurosurgeon here on campus. And he's had a relationship with the NFL subcommittee on concussions. And we looked into it last year and allowed it to be optional for our players. And then he shared with us the data coming out of the NFL last season on, those who had guardian caps going against each other. And it was hard to not recognize that there was definitely an improvement in that area based on the data that we received. So we made it mandatory for our team. We brought Dr. Lonzer in as a resource for any of our guys that had any questions regarding it. But the NFL, that was their policy here in the preseason, and we followed that. And they're going to carry it into the season, is what I've been told. So we're going to do the same thing. And if it can protect our players and it's safe, then we'll do that. We just wanted to see the data. The data has shown that we should do it, and so that's what we're doing. And the guys have embraced it. There was really no pushback from our players.
Fourth row right, Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Ryan, 3 offensive linemen were Iron Buckeyes. Was there a different degree of intensity from the group that you saw this offseason compared to the offseason?
Yeah, I think so. An offensive line is definitely a developmental position, and there's just so much that comes with it. And I think having both tackles, the left guard, Carson, Seth, these guys now have experience. They play, they know what it takes. So when you're in the off season, you know what you're up against in this. You know where you need to get yourself in terms of understanding scheme, but also just physically being able to wear teams down and playing your best in the fourth quarter. So there has been a different approach to that. Now, the one thing is we do have a little bit of a funky virus going on with that group right there. So they've been kind of in and out. We're hoping to flush that out by the end of the week because it's created a little bit of guys in and out. But other than that, they've had a great off season, and we're hoping that we can kind of get a rhythm with those guys here heading into next week.
Third row middle, Tony Gerben, Buckeye Huddle.
Brian, you've talked so highly of Lathan Ransom since his freshman year, and now you've got Caleb Downs. What does it do for you as a head coach to have those two guys not just in your secondary but in your defense?
Well, I just love being around Lathan. I just love him as a person, but I just love being around him. he goes so hard, he cares so much. There's no messing around. He means business, but he's also got a big heart and he's a great teammate. And when he decided to come back, that was a big deal for our entire defense and our entire team. And so I love being around Lathan. He's a competitive guy. He plays really, really hard, and he's poised to have a great season. And then he and Caleb back there, and then you got Jordan at nickel, and then Denzel and IGB, and you feel Jermaine Matthews every day out there. Malik Harford showing some different things. I mean, there's a swagger and a strut with that defense right now. They love to compete. They love going against each other. They kind of go back and forth with the wideouts every day and the tight ends every day in practice. I mean, if the offensive line wants to go against them, they'll do that too. It's just the way they are. They love competing. And even just at the end of practice there, when we're doing our finishers, and they're barking because there's competition going on. So they're a gritty group, but that starts with the older guys, and Lathan's one of them.
Right next door, Dan Hope, Lebanon Warriors.
Following up on the tight ends with Will and G, where do you kind of see that right now in terms of their competition for the starting job?
Yeah, they're both going to play. It's 11 and 12, so we'll figure out where they fit into those. There's a lot that comes with playing tight end. Cade really 2 years ago probably played maybe too many snaps. I mean, that was a lot of snaps for him. We tried to help him out a little bit last year. So there's going to be plenty of snaps to go around. It's going to be one of those deals where does he deserve to play? If yes, we'll draw that line and roll those guys. But we're looking for them to be able to do multiple things. I don't know if all the guys in that room have the same exact skill set. So we'll figure that out as we get closer to the first game. But ultimately, they all can play Y and they all can play H. And I'm hoping that Bennett can come along. I'm hoping Jelani can take that next step. We're seeing some good things out of Max. Pat Gerd is another guy who's been around the program for a while that is a guy that we hope we can rely on as well in some of the packages that we have. So I know Coach Bailey's working hard to get those guys game ready.
Right behind him, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you were asked at Big Ten Media Days about huddling and the helmet communication. Having now used that more, how are you seeing that work out? The quarterback specifically, and how they're handling the huddles, and how much does that maybe play a part in some of the decisions?
I think it's going to be interesting to see because, up until 15 seconds, the defense coordinator can talk to the linebacker, and the offensive coordinator can talk to the quarterback. So I'm sure there's going to be a point where both of those guys are going to be like, will you please shut up and let me play football? But I think it's going to be different. What we haven't experienced yet is, and I gotta figure this out going into next week, is like at 15 seconds when that thing shuts off, what that's going to be like. Because right now, we're still communicating through that. But it is different. It is different how we're doing it. And there's going to be multiple tempos that come with it. Again, at the end of the day, football's football. So whether we're signaling or communicating it in, we all have to be on the same page and play the game. But there is some nuance to it that we're working through.
Deep center field, Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast, Kingsland North.
Ryan, how hard is it with as good as the secondary is and as confident as they are out there, how difficult does that make evaluating quarterback play, but also the wide receiver depth to see who's really taking the steps they need to? Because it seems like to complete a pass out there requires an absolutely perfect play.
No, I don't think so. I think, our guys have been very aggressive and they've challenged a lot of throws, but the good teams we're playing are going to be the same way. So that's the standard. And, that, as we used to say about this all the time, iron sharpens iron. I think Denzel built so much confidence. I asked him the other day, who's the best player you've gone against since you've been here? And he was, he mentioned the guys that are on our team. So it's vice versa. If you can get open and catch a ball on a fade against IGB or Denzel, or catch the ball over middle, or work a vision and break against Caleb Downs or Lathan Ransom or Jordan Hancock, then you're going to be pretty good against most of the guys in the country, and it builds confidence that when you can do it. I think the thing that I appreciate is every day these guys are bringing it. Every day when there's a competition and it's nasty out there, it's gritty, and. I think right now there's probably more depth in the back end on defense than there is a wide receiver, and so we need some of those guys to step up. But we will. The good news is, again, if you can do it in practice against our defense, then you can do it in a game, and then you can prove to the coaching staff you deserve to play. And I think that's a motivating factor for our guys.
Fourth row right, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Right. In media days, you mentioned Brandon Ennis as somebody that you feel when you're out there.
Yeah.
And we've been able to see him healthy, obviously now, and can make is really cooking out cuts. How much does that add versatility to what you guys can do with him? Because he can do so many different things.
Well, you've heard people talk about almost building a basketball team, different sizes. And when you look at, Carnell and Emeka and Jeremiah, and then you look at Brandon, I mean, they're all different sizes. And Brandon's built low to the ground, but just super competitive. I mean, we say this all the time, like, can you see a guy play? Yeah, but can you feel a guy when he's out there? You feel 11 when he's out there, just the way he plays. And he's competing his tail off, and he's jawing back and forth with a guy. He loves the competition, and I just like that part of his game. And he has toughness. I think when the ball's in his hand, he's a strong runner. He's played some quarterback in high school. He's played some running back in high school. I mean, he's done a lot. He can return. He's very versatile that way. So, if he continues to build, and he's not perfect. I mean, there's things he's got to get better at. But, we're going to count on him to be a key contributor this year.
Right next door, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Brian, I saw Monte Armstrong get into a little bit of a pushing match with one of the guys. Saw Davison get into Jeremiah's face after a pass breakup. Do you like seeing that intensity right now? Is that something that you don't want to encourage guys to be fighting on the field? But are you seeing that intensity that you want to see in practice Saturday? Even though these guys seem to be pretty tired at this point. Yeah,
no, I mean, it's different between getting tired and throwing a punch and getting thrown out of a game or breaking your hand. That's just complete undiscipline. It's another thing when you're just going so hard that you're going to be jawing and pushing and being edgy and playing all the way to the edge of the whistle. Like, that's what we want right there. And our guys aren't going to back down from anybody. And that has to be that mentality every day when you're out there, and you have to bring it. And so we're not going to have guys running from the sideline getting into it. We have a protocol for that. We've talked to our team about that, and we can't be whatever we're doing in practice, we're going to do in a game. And so we can't get penalties for undisciplined behavior. But at the same time, like, we're going to go really, really hard in practice and push each other. And there's not one guy on that field that's going to back down. So, what you saw out there in practice is what we're looking for in terms of intensity.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Ryan, how has this illness with the offensive line impacted the evaluation or position battles, or even like just the way you practiced the first week?
It hasn't really affected us yet. It did a little bit today. We had a couple things show up, and so a couple guys on the offensive line had to double up, and I called them out after practice and gave them a shout out, because that wasn't easy. It wasn't all perfect, but they were tough and gritty and really gutted it out. If this continues like this, then it is going to have an effect. If we can kind of flush this out here pretty soon, then I think it'll be just a bump in the road. So we'll see how this weekend shakes out.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, we saw Jeremiah was named one of the 10 Ironmen or whatever, which as a freshman I'm sure is impressive. You've been very careful to not want to kind of add to the hype, but is it to the point now where it's like, there's no denying it? And just his battles with IGB, for example, how much does that make him better?
Yeah, he loves it. We were up in the training table the other day, and so that's why I came here, to get better. And I'm going against these guys and learning about myself, and I love his spirit. He's so competitive. For somebody who's as talented he is, first off, he's strong and he's powerful and he's big, but it's his work ethic to me that just jumps out. He's physically tough. I mean, physically he'll get after you, but also when he gets out there, very, very few MAs for a young player. He takes his game very, very seriously. He puts the work in off the field, and if he doesn't, make the play, he's hard on himself. And so, rare do you find somebody who's as talented he has, but has really good discipline and skill at that age. So we haven't played a game yet, but he's building a lot of respect amongst his teammates for sure.
Right behind him, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
It's just funny watching you deal with that. August 31st is going to be very interesting.
I was right here when we heard he was coming. Right?
Yeah, I know. It's like,
well, that was why.
It's like you almost fainted about the kid. And I was like, I don't want to go there anymore.
Yeah,
I get it, but it's just going to be funny August 31st. When you're evaluating quarterbacks, whether it's when you've brought guys in the portal or in recruiting, when you're watching film, you brought up special trait a lot. I know it's very early to talk about that, but when you're watching film, there's probably something you identify with and you go, I can work with that. With Will, when you were watching him at Kansas State and you saw what he was doing as a quarterback, passing what did you see in his game that made you go, I can work with that?
I saw some poise in the pocket that is hard to teach. size that could see over the line, accuracy, and then the ability to pull it down and run. I mean, those were probably the top things that we recognized in evaluating his film.
Bill Landis, the podcast, Kings of the North.
Kind of building off that, I guess, I feel like you do notice when you watch Will, it's like subtle movements in the pocket sometimes just buy him a lot of time. Is that just experience? Is that innate in guys? Or even think about the young quarterbacks you have, like with Aaron Julian. That's a good question. Can he coach them up on stuff like that?
No, it's a great question, and I think about these things a lot. I remember when each guy is a little bit different, but let's take Justin for example. That first spring, the minute he felt a rush, he would just start scrambling. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I mean, he was out of the pocket fast. And so, we just made a rule. You're not allowed to scramble. You have to stay in the pocket. You have to slide. Because the difference, like Tom Brady couldn't scramble really. And so what did he do? He still extended plays. How did he do that? He slid in the pocket. He found the soft spot. He could feel when a 3 technique was in his face, and then he would just slide to buy himself a little bit of time. When guys are more athletic and they can escape, they find themselves using that as a tool, which is fine. But we kept him in the pocket. And then with CJ in high school, you could see that his offensive line at times wasn't great, and so he had to stand in the pocket, and he would stand in the pocket, and that was something he even got in high school, and then he learned it more when he was here. And I think with young guys, especially with all the 7-on-7 that goes on, it's so unrealistic, and I think sometimes they train a little bit different at quarterback, where and it's hard because when you're working with a quarterback, you want to help them learn that you have to move in the pocket, but sometimes you move so much that you don't even need to move in the pocket. You were fine. You were protected. There's this rhythm that you have to feel. You can't look at the rush. You have to feel the rush, and you have to feel the soft spots. And like you said, it's very, very hard to. I mean, how can you replicate that? Do some guys innately feel it? Yes, but I think more than anything, it's a thing that you just need to get, the rush in front of them. And the more and more they do it, the more and more comfortable they'll be. The better protection you have, the quicker it'll come along. I've seen quarterbacks, when I was in the NFL and different places, where if they don't get any protection, they start seeing ghosts because, when you're in the pocket, you take one in the chops a few times. I remember it happened to Dwayne out here. I want to say it was the maybe Minnesota game, or maybe it was the Nebraska game. We missed a blitz coming off the edge, and he took one. He never saw it coming. He didn't set his feet the rest of the game. So there's a lot that comes with what you're asking, and I could probably talk about it for a few hours, but the bottom line is we want to train our guys to see down the field, feel the pocket, and really try to find ways to slide and find the soft spot in there. And then when it's time to extend and escape, then do that.
Final questions. Tim May podcast.
Yeah, like Roethlisberger, he was expert.
But he would stand in there and extend by taking a shot with a guy hanging on. He had a different style of it. You're right. Everyone's a little different.
That's why I'm equating Will to, because Will's a bigger guy.
Bigger guy.
Yeah.
He is.
I don't even get in. That wasn't my question.
All right, guys. Thanks.
As you stand here right now, you were talking about this earlier, but you've got to feel pretty good where this defense has come from where it was 3 years ago. Maybe I'm wrong.
No.
What does that give a head coach when he sees a defense like that out there? You understand what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? And think about where you were 3 years ago. But what kind of comfort is that? What is the word you would use that it gives you? And explain that.
Well, I think two things. One, I'm able to sit in those meetings a little bit more, so I have a better idea what's going on. Which when you're on the offensive side of the ball and you don't quite know, the answers to what the problems are, you can get a little panicky. And I think it's helped me to go in there and sit in there and ask questions. And Jim's been great, just filling me in on some different things, but also just where we're at into year 3. I mean, these guys have been in that system now for 3 years, and a lot of them played a lot of football. So when you're speaking a language, it makes a big difference if you've been speaking the same language for 3 years. You know the mistakes that have been made. You know the issues with the coverage. And then when Jim's calling the defense, they start to understand why. We talk about this all the time. What do you have to do? How do you do it? But then why is he calling? He's calling that coverage for a reason. He's calling this blitz for a reason. And when guys can get that then they can start anticipating as opposed to reacting. So, Yeah, it definitely is one of those things this year. Like, we have a good defense, so we need to understand that on offense. Like, they're not two separate entities. We're all one together, and I'm hoping this year that, having Chip here and me kind of being able to step away just a little bit, I'm able to do that better than I have maybe in the past.
Yeah, like you said, when Latham decided to come back, what a moment, but Caleb Downs,
Yeah.
within a week or so, I mean, they were, wow, that's a moment, isn't it? I
It
mean,
is.
of a personnel acquisition in another form.
Yeah, but just also even up front, with Tyleek and with Jack and JT and those, Ty, Cody Simon. I mean, those guys, they had an opportunity to leave too. They didn't. So, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of work to get to where we are right now. So we just got to keep putting these days together.
And with a clarification, you said end of the season with the helmet pads. You're talking about practice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bill Rabinowitz has one quickie too.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of clarity at right guard at this point?
No, not right now. No, nothing yet. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thank you very much.